or Adam, anybody that wants to come in that are hammock campers, you guys are more than welcome to, or anybody that wants to ask questions about hammock camping. Um, it's kind of a beginner's guide. I wish I would have had some more people. I mean, I watched videos from Shug and a lot of different hammock campers, but it never really got into the importance of what type of hammock. And it really depends on if you want to lounge in a hammock or sleep in a hammock. You know, people think they're just going to take their woven hammock out of their backyard and sleep in it, which you can, but um, real important the length of your hammock. I mean, I can be comfortable in a 9.5 or 10 foot hammock, but um, you definitely want a double wide hammock so you can lay flat. That's the biggest thing I hear of most people wanting to hammock camp, and they hate hammock camping because they lay like a banana. Well, to get a good night's sleep and be able to sleep on your side and toss and turn, you got to have a double wide and you got to sleep diagonal in your hammock so you can roll from left to right. Um, I have the same hammock that Adam has. This is Aries 12-foot double wide hammock from One Wind, and it's got the buckle system. Hammocks are real important because you want a lightweight, strong. This will even smash down smaller. You want something small if you're going to be hiking in. It claps it down really small so it doesn't take up room. I mean, that's a quarter of the size of a tent. Then you've got your tarp and your straps, but you can smash it down pretty good. But you definitely want. I mean, I have uh, Academy hammock, a Magellan hammock that it's almost 10 foot. I can sleep pretty comfortable in it, and I added a structural ridge line to it. I didn't put a whoopee sling ridge line, but I did put a structural ridge line on all my hammocks, and that made a big difference. So when you hang it, you adjust that structural ridge line to get the percentage of hang that you want, which is mine's around 30 degrees, 30 to 35 degrees from your straps. You'll tie your tree straps to the trees, and then it's the degree from the tree strap to your hammock, carabiner, or in my case, buckle. So every time I hang my hammock, no matter pretty much, I mean, the trees need to be 15 feet apart, 12 to 15 feet is what I like. But if you have that structural ridge line adjusted right, when you hang your hammock, it's going to be set at that same degree roughly every time you hang your hammock. You know, um, don't just go buy a cheap, junky hammock. You're not going to be comfortable. You're not going to be happy with it. You don't have to buy the most expensive hammock, but you definitely want one. I mean, that's why I'd highly recommend One Wind. It's probably the least inexpensive hammock. It's not a, I wouldn't call it necessarily a beginner's hammock, but it's not the cheapest. It's not the most expensive, but it is a great hammock to start with. Um, Sorry, guys, I might get in some comments here. Herbert, Daniel, Lefty, hey, how you doing, Lefty? Randy made it. Woodsman made it. Mike made it. Okay, everybody's making it. Sorry, I'm trying to keep up with comments. Stay on key. Like I said, if anybody wants to come in and ask any questions, um, let's see here. Is that 30 degrees hammock empty or occupied? That's a good question. It's usually empty, as you can judge. Just stick your thumb and your pinky up to your strap and your buckle or your carabiner, and once you get in it, it's obviously going to sag, but you're still going to get that. Even when you get in it, you're still going to have that same. It will sag down, but that structural ridge line will keep your hammock secure and pretty much where you want it. Okay. Sorry, I had to change everything up to redo this room, so I'm have to look on my phone for comments. Let's see here. Seems like most people don't like hammocking as people that never sleep good at night. Hammock lovers seem to be people that could sleep anywhere if they're tired. Yeah, I hear you say that quite a bit. I mean, I don't know. I don't know that to be true for sure because I know a lot of hammockers that love their hammock, and um, I don't know. I sleep better in my hammock than I do my own bed, but our bed is super, super firm, and I don't know why I don't sleep in our bed as well, but I do. Hey, two guys, welcome. But I don't know. I would think if you find a hammock that would fit you and it's comfortable, you're definitely going to um, sleep well. I know you, Randy, for sure say you like to toss and turn, and I can turn to my left, turn to my right. Um, Sorry, trying to get you guys in here. Okay, there's that one. There's that one. I can't see the invites. Okay, there you go. Are you guys in here? There's Mike. All right.
I might be.
Got you on my phone, so I can't hardly see the guest invites when you guys are wanting to come in. You in here? Yep. Hey, Hammock Mountain, how are you? Hey, Lefty, good to see you, brother. Hey, Daft, how you doing, man? DD hammocks, yeah, those are pretty nice. I'd like to try one myself. Yeah, Daft, sleeping pads. I haven't had much luck with sleeping pads because they move around in hammocks really bad, and anytime you roll, you kind of roll off pad. I was talking to Minnesota Mike during our meetup, and the best thing that I've come across if you don't have an underquilt for your warmth is foam mats, roll mats. I usually lay two of them down, and they kind of grip your hammock, and then you can move around. They'll still move, but not as much as a air mattress. You still there, Mike?
Yeah, I'm here. I wonder. I'm in the car. I wonder if you're getting a bunch of road noise from me.
Yeah, quite a bit, but I can still hear you pretty good.
Well, I'll just mute it so that you don't get it.
You're fine. You
But
going home from work?
give me a shout if you want something.
Okay, Mike, I appreciate you. Hey, Campfire and Dirty Tires, welcome. Appreciate you guys coming in tonight. Yeah, Hammock Mountain. Yeah, my hammock is so I totally sleep like a baby in it, and I really didn't until I found a hammock that I enjoy. But there's so many aspects to it: tree straps, your structural ridge line. Until I really found what's comfortable for me and got that extra wide hammock. The one wind is super comfortable. Um, and it makes a difference on the length of how tall you are. You definitely need one that fits you and that you can set up to be comfortable. Hey, Nomadic Camping, good to see you guys. I'm way behind on comments. I'm trying to catch up, guys. Okay. Tried to get a special guest in tonight to kind of interview like I did Tony, but I'm doing what I can do here. I'm trying to get the comments up on my tablet so I don't have to mess with my phone as much. I don't sleep well in a hammock. Yeah, nomadic. That's what I was trying to do this live for. I mean, I hear a lot of people, Randy, say that, and a lot of people say that. Uh, Okay. Are you in, Randy?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
So I just gonna make a comment and then you can put me out of here.
Oh, you can do whatever. You can stay if you want.
So what my thing is, like what I keep trying to explain, like here at the house when I sleep, I mostly sleep on the couch because it's stiff, real stiff and firm. There is almost zero curvature.
Yeah.
And I just think that it's almost impossible to find a hammock that's gonna be stiff with almost no curvature in it. I've never
Yeah.
seen one anyway.
No, you would definitely have to get. I mean, I can lay pretty much flat, and there is no curvature when I lay in my hammock, but you have to lay diagonal where you lay flat. But you're not going to get one that's as firm as what you're talking about. I mean, you would literally have to, like you told me at camp, you'd literally have to cut a piece of plywood and put in there if you wanted it that stiff. I mean, I don't know how you would find. I mean, like I said, a hammock would work good for you, but it's not going to be as firm as a bed. I mean,
Yeah.
uh, the hammock's only going to be as firm as the air mattress that you slip in the space for the air mattress. So um, it really depends on like you say, you have a hard time sleeping and you sleep on your couch a lot. So I don't know if you'd ever be totally happy in a hammock, any kind of hammock, really.
I want I want to get one, but I want to get one that comes closest to
The
because I don't want to
nightcat
be
that
left out when you go to these hammock things.
yeah, did you see Outdoor McGee's newest video he just put out?
Yeah,
That nightcat it straps to the trees and it doesn't swing side to side. Either something like that nightcat or an Amok. Those two are going to probably be the closest thing that you would ever be happy with, I would assume. But they're both kind of pricey, and I wish I knew if somebody had one that you could try to see if you could make it work for you, because I mean they're $200+. So that's not something you want to just go buy and hope that it works.
yeah. Well, that
Let's
was
see
my
here.
big
Nomadic
statement.
says I would be okay with a flat lay hammock. Yeah, Nightcat, a Haven, a Amok. Um, there's a lot of flat lay hammocks. My Creo hybrid hammock, um, but it still sways side to side, which that's what I like the most of about a hammock is the sway. Um, Nightcat runs about 199. Yep. So sometimes you can see them on Amazon for 179, 169 on sale, but it's still kind of pricey. Like my one wind was $70, and then you got to throw a tarp in there. You don't have to necessarily buy everything that's one wind, but I like it because it all goes together. It's all going to fit together, and you're not going to have to worry about the quality because all the quality's there. So. Okay, Hammock Mountain says you should try to lay in a majestic hammock if you ever get the chance. All are handmade by Corey and are super comfortable. Yeah, I did see all those at HangCon, and I uh, subscribed to his channel, and I definitely would love a majestic. It's just the one I want's like $400 or $450, and I would love someday. I just can't justify right now to spend that kind of money, on a hammock, knowing that I'm happy with the one I've got. But I'm sure I'd absolutely love the Majestic here for sure. Uh, that's what I was talking to Tony about. That's exactly what he's saving up to get. Is the same. He laid in one at HangCon and just fell in love with it. I like the idea of the ones they have with the underquilt built into it. That way you don't have to add an underquilt. It's already there. Um, that's a really good idea. But yeah, finding Oh, sorry. There's another person wanting in. Minnesota Mike's coming back. Sorry, Minnesota Mike. I'm using my phone because I had to redo everything, so it takes me a minute to see that guest pop up on the bottom on my little screen. So
Yeah, I get it. That's fine.
awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, choosing a hammock. I've got a lot of hammocks. I went through a lot of hammocks before I decided on the one that I liked the most, and um, the different tree straps is important too, because typically when you get a cheaper hammock system like Academy and a lot of these hammocks, some of the more expensive ones have them too, but the Atlas straps, which have the different loops at different intervals on the tree straps, these are called Atlas straps that have all the different loops so you can have different adjustments for your hammock. I don't really care for these because you can't really fine tune it. I like these if I'm on a lounge in one of my hammocks that necessarily doesn't matter fine tune, but these just wrap around your tree and then gives you some adjustment. But like I said, you can't fine
I,
tune it to get that perfect
I
degree.
have those. I have those mixed with whoopee slings on mine, so I get
Yes.
the fine tuning with the whoopee sling.
Yep. Yep. I
There's
noticed with the
1,001 ways to do it,
yep,
and all
for
kinds of
sure.
combinations and everything.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why I was just trying to get into the basics here. Usually the basics are like the Atlas straps, or a lot of people use rope, but I don't like using anything except straps so it doesn't, damage the bark. But I do like the buckle system because I've got the whoopee sling and the buckle system. And
Hmm.
with the buckle system, you can get your fine adjustment with just the buckle system and you don't have to, you know, I don't my whoopee sling's set to what I need every time. So all I do is find just if for these straps for the distance of the trees pretty much. I mean my whoopee sling I have set for every single hang and I just do my fine adjustments with my straps. But you know, the thing with hammock camping is it's totally different for every single person, and I never hear the same hammock campers say that they can get in my hammock and be totally fine. They would have to adjust it for themselves. So, I mean, I
Earlier,
can't.
And Shug
Yeah,
put out a
go
new
ahead.
video recently too that I
Yep,
just watched it today when I was riding in the car, and
absolutely, I did too.
yeah, and he's talking about insulation mostly, but
Yeah,
in all of his videos he always makes a big deal out of if you're gonna choose to try a hammock, there's tons of fidgeting and you set it up and switch it and change it, and some people just hate that because they want to put their tent up, put their gear in the tent, and lay down, go to bed, and
yep,
it's consistent for them. And I think that's great if that's the way you want.
yep,
Um, and but it was worth the effort to me. And but you have to fiddle around with those straps and with
yep.
each piece of it, and there's a lot of moving parts.
That's
So
exactly.
you have
Yep.
to just want to do it.
Exactly, that's right, and a lot of people that don't have patience and, they don't wanna fiddle with it, but that's why I suggest starting out with not like me buying a million different things and listening to a million different people. Buy one system like this. I like this system because it's so inexpensive, but really versatile for what you get. I mean, you get your fine adjustment with your buckles, plus it's got the whoopee sling. I mean, for $70, there's not another hammock out there, in my opinion, that
Yeah.
has as much adjustment as the one win. That's the only reason I went with that.
What all did you
And
get with your one win kit?
um, I got the 10 by 13 tarp that has the flaps that you can put into storm mode. When I ordered my whole kit, I got the under quilt and top quilt combo that comes with it, and then they gave me a free one wind footprint for underneath of it. So I've got pretty much everything. I don't have the down. I wish I had the down set too, but for what I usually sleep in, if I was going to go colder than what we have here in Missouri, I'd definitely go with the down for sure. But my down underquilt and top quilt combo was, I think it was around $100 for both. I mean, the down quilts and the top quilt set was going to be 250. I mean, I just didn't have the funds to go with the down.
That's the same setup that I recommended for my son and my grandson that wanted a hammock camp. Same
Yeah,
thing that you've got going there, and that's for in Minnesota for us. That's summertime, you know.
yeah, yep,
Um, and I've got a pile of down, and that's what it takes to go in deeper cold. But
yep,
but they're coming out with some synthetics that are okay too, as long as you have a
yeah.
way to get them there. You have to. I talked to a guy at Sierra store in St. Cloud, Minnesota. On the way back, we stopped in there, and there was a guy buying a bag of Mountain House meals that were on clearance from their last year's, and Adam and I were standing there looking at a clearance sleeping bag, and it's a 40-degree bag and down, and it was nice, and it was on clearance for $70, and
That's not bad.
the gentleman ended up buying it, and so Adam got to talking to him at the register, and he said that he sleeps in a hammock, and he has an underquilt, but he doesn't have a top quilt. He just uses 4 sleeping bags.
Yep.
And I said, how do you get your stuff through the woods? And he says, oh, I've got a big sled. And
Yep.
so we walked out. Adam and I walked out going, yep, that's a big sled. You have to take a lot of gear if you're going to do it like that. But his sleeping bags were, he said that he carries 4 40-degree sleeping bags.
Wow.
And as far as I know, that gets you to about 50 below or 60 below zero. If you can stack them, but you can stack synthetics too.
Yeah.
So if you get that kit like you have, you can always add extra or add an additional,
Yep.
and then you're not wasting. So if you added another 30 or 40-degree synthetic, whatever that one is rated to be,
Yep.
it's exponential. It doesn't divide it in half. You get, and there's a chart. There's a chart that's available online that tells you what that is. What if you put 220
Yep.
degrees together or something like that.
I have
Yeah,
a
that's what I
question.
like to. Oh, yep. Go ahead, Randy.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So you were talking earlier about the length. So how much longer do you want your hammock than your height?
Well, that's a good question. They have a chart online that you can download, and Majestic Hammocks. I believe on his site he has one too on all of his hammocks that it'll tell you um, what hammock you need for your height. I believe he said, like, I'm 6 foot. I think he recommends, if I want to say right, you can do like a 10.5 foot hammock, if I'm not mistaken.
Nothing less
For
than
six,
that.
yeah, I wouldn't go less. I mean, I have a 9.5 foot is I think the smaller one that I have. I can sleep in it comfortably, but I don't have a lot of extra room to get quite as of an angle that I like, but I can sleep in it comfortably, and the underquilt I have for it does work. Uh, Once I got the double wide hammock and the 12 foot, I mean, 12 foot was a little overkill because I get a little bit more material on the sides when I lay flat, but I like that. It blocks more wind if you don't have your tarp down like you in store mode and the wind comes up. That extra material seems to be kind of like a wind block for me.
That was my next question. What's the negative to it being too long? But you just answered that.
Other than the extra, yeah, other than the extra material, I can't find a negative other than you have to have a longer tarp, obviously, to cover. If you have an 11-foot tarp, the minimum length tarp I would even suggest would be a 12-foot length. I mean, that still only gives you 6 inches on each side coverage. I mean, in a real stormy weather, I mean, but also when you get that 30% with your whoopee sling pulling your ridgeline in, your hammock really isn't laying a full, like my 12-foot isn't fully laying at 12 foot. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's 83%.
Yeah, 83% of that. So
What they say.
I usually
So
have
when
probably 2 foot on each side or a foot and a half on each side of my hammock when I have my tarp up.
The other negative or the other challenge is your underquilt has to be matched to the length of your hammock, and I learned that a really really hard way, a
Yeah.
really
If
really cold way.
yeah, if you want a full length, I mean, yeah.
Well, it just has to be centered under you, but
Yep, yep,
if your hammock is really long, then your straps or your I use shock cord connectors, and
yep.
but they have to be sized properly. I have a longer hammock and a shorter hammock, and I've gone to using the shorter one in cold weather, and I use the longer one in warmer weather. And there's
I'm way
complicated reasons for that I don't want to get into, but whenever I use the longer hammock, I have to add an extension of shock cord to allow that underquilt to center in the right place.
yeah, I don't know if this
absolutely.
is what you're talking about exactly, but so let's say if you have, how much do you want of strap or whatever on each top and bottom? Like, what's the tree distance you need? Does it change depending on what size you hammock you have?
Well,
Little.
and it depends on how far. I mean, you never get ideal trees in any
Uh,
forest. I mean, um, that's the thing is you try to get as close. My key length I love is 15 feet, somewhere between
Me
12 and
too.
15 feet.
Me too.
If I get less than that, um, I really have to adjust my whoopee sling and my straps a lot. So I always just hike
uh,
until I find that perfect length. But I need to catch up on some of these comments here. I didn't say hi to Ken, but Adventures with Ken said that I want a Haven XL hammock. Yes, a Haven's another flat lay hammock that's really good option for a flat lay hammock. You can put really nice air mattresses in that if you want. Memory foam mattresses they have. I think Outdoor McGee has a nice new memory foam air mattress, self-inflating air mattress that would work well in that Haven hammock. Hammock Mountain said, "I have a Dutch wear quilted chameleon. I love it. Yes, I've seen those.
Yeah.
I'd like to lay in one of those for sure." Um, and there's so many good comments in here. Um, Ventures of Ken has a Grand Trunk Skeeter beater. Yeah, I've heard a lot of people say they have those and like those.
Those are nice. Yeah.
Uh, um, DD hammocks, the front line, jungle hammocks. Those are all a lot of guys I watch over in the UK use those. Those are really good hammocks. Hennessy hammocks are good. Explain whoopee sling. Um, Herbert said. You want to explain that for everybody, Mike?
Oh, you have one there to show and tell?
That let's see if I can. I'll have to
Put you
bring
on
my
the
whole
spot too.
hammock out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a
Well,
whoopee sling is made out of am steel, which is a special kind of rope, and it's hollow, so you can uh, you run you run the loop back through itself. I have one back there in my backpack because I'm not quite home yet. Um,
yeah. Here it is.
and so it runs back through there, and so it's got an adjustment built into the rope. But this rope is hollow like a yellow rope is for boating, and that's where I first ever saw this kind of rope where it's hollow. And there's videos online of how to make them or how they work. But the best thing is I bought mine on Etsy from a hammock guy on Etsy, and
Yeah, this is the hollow part you was talking about here.
yeah, and then whenever
I don't
you
know if you can
adjust it,
see
you
it.
scrunch it up on itself and it'll slide. And then it's called working the berry. bury, but like the place where it's buried. So you have to work the bury part out. And once you stretch it back out again, it locks in place. It will not move.
I
And
really don't want to adjust.
you have an infinite adjustment that's up to the point where it doesn't work anymore. It only
Yeah,
goes so far.
I don't really want to adjust this one because I have it set to where I like it. I mean, it's not that big a deal to adjust it, but you can put. I've got a, a
Yeah.
caddy,
Yep.
and they've got a little hanger that these
Painter.
one winds come with a Prusik knot on it, and but yeah, it helps you adjust your permanent ridge line. They're real inexpensive. You can get a whoopee sling from uh, one wind for like $20 or less.
And it's not
Um,
necessary.
no, it's
Um,
not.
Herbert T, it's not necessary to do that. If you buy a simple and Randy, the simple way to do it is what um Dave is showing you there. You buy that, you don't need to worry about whoopee slings. That's like step 3 or 4 down the road somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah, I wanted to keep this more of a basic for like beginners because I have a lot of people
I'm
wanting to
sorry I
get.
complicated it.
No, I mean it's important too because when I got started, everybody tells you a million different things about hammock camping, but I never really heard what I needed to hear. Uh, if I did, it was from Shug.
Yeah.
And like you said, I was just getting into it and it was over my head at that point. So, um, yeah, basics is don't buy the cheapest, but buy one like a one wind or the one that Tony has. I meant to write it down. That's a good hammock too.
Amaya.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
there's another one he just got.
uh, one tigress.
No, oh man, I could probably look it up real quick,
Well,
but
any of those kits that are like that online where you can buy the package, you can do
mhm,
that for $100 or something.
yep,
You can get everything you need for $100 pretty much.
absolutely, yep,
And that's the um, that's the way to go with it. And my son is for that one win. My son is, gosh, he's tall. I mean, he's 6'5" or something maybe. I
hmm,
don't know. He's taller than 6 feet. It still works for him, and he can get a diagonal lay, and he can be successful at it. And the underquilt is not complicated. My setup is complicated,
yeah,
and I had to be a complete disciple of Shug to learn how to do it. And when I met him in person, I told him he was my hero, and he said, "Shut up and get away from me. I'm only my own hero. I'm not your hero." And we, but so it's a journey, but it's easy. It's best to get that set up, and you can, if you want to do that, that's the way you can do it. If you know you want to lay flat, you're into it for 2 or 3 times that much at least.
yeah. Well, I missed saying goodbye to Adventures with Ken. I'm sure he's gone, but good night, Ken, if you're still there. Um, let's see here. That's fun of
Ooh.
hammock camping. I love to fiddle with it, says Hammock Mountain. Yeah, I mean, there's just so many fine tuning over the years once you start finding a hammock you're happy with, and then you can get all the little accessories to go with it. That's kind of what I've done. Let's see here. Nomadic, I'm going to loosen my ridge line next time I try the hammock. Yeah, that's a good idea. If it's still not flat enough for you, you might have it too tight for sure. Let's see here. Steve at the Hog Tie has the best deal on down top quilt and under quilts.
Hang
Thanks for that
tight,
info.
hang tight.
Oh, is it hang tight? Yeah, it is hang tight.
That's the ones
Sorry.
I have.
Oh, is it?
Yeah,
Oh, that's right. You did show me that.
I
Yep.
showed those to you. Yeah,
Yep.
hang
Yep.
tight shop on Etsy,
Yep.
and they have
Thanks, Hammock
really
Mountain.
good deal.
Hey, Outdoors with Den. Um,
What's up, Dan?
Let's
So
see here.
what about
Do
the
what, Ray?
netting? If you
Bug
want
netting?
netting, yeah, how does that attach?
Well, one wind, a lot of hammock companies have hammocks with or without bug net, or I opted with the one that you can slip over the ridge line and the hammock and everything and enter from the bottom, only because I don't like the ones that are permanently attached, because in the
Right.
wintertime you don't need it and it's in your way. So I wanted a removable bug net.
Are
But
those
one wind,
expensive?
no, they're not. One wind has hammocks that have them attached, and then they have them like mine that you buy one that you can slip over it. I forget how much it came with my set for $70. So
Wow.
my set came with everything. I had to buy the tarp separate, the underquilt, top quilt, and the footprint separately. But the kit to get you out and go is you'll get everything to set up your hammock except underquilt and a tarp, but it does come with a bug net.
What are you calling footprint?
Just like a tarp or anything. You can get a cheap blue tarp from Harbor Freight and put under. I just like something to put under my hammock, so when I can take
Oh,
my
like a
boots
mat?
off. Yeah, just a mat. You could put a
Oh, okay.
carpet under there for all that matters, but just something to put down that you can step down on, so you're not getting in the leaves and dirt, and
Yeah.
it's
I've
just
seen that.
nice.
I didn't know that's what it was called.
Yeah, it's kind of like putting under a tent, a footprint under a tent. Same thing, but you're just walking on it for your comfort more than anything.
Yeah.
And
I just never heard them called
yeah,
footprint.
mine has a zipper where you can open it up, and you can if it's storming real bad, you can put your backpack or any gear inside of it. It's hollow inside, so it kind of protects your gear as well. Uh, Reflectix work well. Yeah, Matt, Reflectix do work well, but you do get condensation with Reflectix. I've messed with that a little bit, and the closed cell foam mats. You get a lot of condensation with those as well. They work really good, but you don't want the condensation during the winter time. Summertime, you can get away with it. You're going to have more condensation, but uh, you fight condensation with any kind of mat. I've found. Let's see here. There's so many comments. Sorry, guys. That's hard to host and keep up with the comments. So I'm trying. Let's see here. 15 feet. Trees is perfect, but I've done 20 many times. Yeah, Hammock Mountain, I've done 20. That's probably 18 at the camp that we just did. And it was pretty far trees, 15 to 18 feet, I think, but I have done 20, or I've even stretched it out to almost the full length of my straps with my one win. And yeah, you don't have a lot of adjustment. When you get farther apart, it seems like it's harder to get off the ground.
Whenever you go farther apart, you have to raise the straps higher
Yep.
up
Yep.
the tree.
Yep, for sure.
And you can a man can only reach so high.
Yeah, that's the problem. About 10 minutes ago. I don't mind laying flat, only on my side because alleged to snore. My wife's opinion. That's him in the daft hat says, I don't mind lying flat, to only sleep on my side because I'm alleged to snore from his wife. Yeah. Yep. I got to run, fellas. Hey, Hammock Mountain, I appreciate you coming in tonight. I really do. You guys haven't given me a thumbs up. I appreciate a thumbs up. Oh, you got to do a small electrical job? Cool. Let's see here. Good night, Hammock. All right. I need to get back on topic here. I covered the hammock. The suspension and straps we kind of went over. I definitely recommend straps versus any kind of rope or anything that'll damage the trees. We kind of touched on the underquilt and sleeping pad situation. Um, like Shug said earlier on his video that Mike was mentioning about down versus synthetics, and Mike and I touched on that a little bit too. The thing I like what Shug said is no matter what kind of underquilt, no matter what kind of sleeping bag, no matter what kind of top quilt you have, it's only going to keep you warm. It doesn't make you warmer. It holds in and traps that heat, your body heat. So if you're already cold, if you're already almost hypothermic before you even crawl in, it's not going to warm you up. It's just going to retain the heat that you have. So drinking something warm or getting by a fire and warming yourself up, doing jumping jacks and doing some kind of exercise to get your body warmer before you get into your sleeping system is going to help you stay warm. Um, so, like he said, the people always say when you get into hammock camping, um, what should I get? Well, of course, depends on where you're at. Uh, you want to stay warm, but like here in Missouri, I don't need as cold a system as Mike does in Minnesota. You know, so yeah, I want a down system, but it's 3 times more than my synthetic. And my system I got keeps me warm enough, so I don't really. If I go to a colder climate, or if it gets colder here, if I'm ever camping in a super cold climate, then yeah, I'll probably need to get a warmer system. But like Mike said, you can just double up. My top quilt snaps to my under quilt, and it virtually doubles your layers. So I can go down cold enough for here, anyways. Hot water bottle, yeah, yeah, that's a great idea. I highly recommend doing that because a lot of times, especially in the UK, and I like doing it. I always like to try to drink something hot before I go to bed, a hot tea or whatever, coffee or whatever. Um, But when you're warming up that water for your coffee or your tea or whatever, pour you a hot water bottle or anything and take to bed with you. That's a great idea. Hot hands, anything to throw in your system to keep you warm. Before it's too late, Outdoor Adventure says, "How big of a pain is it if you get up 3 times a night to do what old people do?" Yeah, I'm already there. That's a very good question. I would suggest taking a lot of people don't want to talk about it, but taking a urinal or a like Joe says, a pee bottle, whatever, if you don't want to get in and out. I have a system that's real easy to get in and out of my hammock, even in wintertime, in a sleeping bag in my hammock. So it's not a huge deal for me to get out of my hammock. It's a lot easier if you have a flat lay hammock, but for a guy, especially, you just need to take something with you if you don't want to get in and out. People don't want to get out because it's cold. I understand all that, but I mean, obviously, same thing you would do in a tent if you don't want to get out of your tent. Whatever you need to take with you, not have to get out. I mean, that's what you're going to have to use, obviously. But that is a good question. Let's see here. Those are guys. Sometimes it helps against beetle or slug or snail invasion. What did I hear? I missed that comment, I think, here. Yeah, I think I'm caught up pretty good with the. Yeah, I need to trying to keep up with the comments, guys. If anybody else wants to come in and like to add anything to what we're talking about tonight, you can go ahead and click that link at the top of the screen. It's all the way to the top of the chat screen. I'm sorry, guys. Hard for me to. I guess I could put another link in if I need to. Um, Top quilt or sleeping bag? See, that's another good question. That's something I fought with. Do I need a top quilt or do I need a sleeping bag? everybody kind of giggled about the instructional. I don't call it instructional, but I just explained how I got in and out of my hammock in a sleeping bag. It seems really stupid, but I mean, that's a simple way to get in and out of your sleeping bag in a hammock, and it's not that big of a deal. It's a lot easier to get in and out of it that way than get in it after you get into your hammock. I mean, I have a way I do it once I get in my hammock too, but it's a lot easier to get in your sleeping bag before you even get in the hammock and just set down in and swing your legs in. It's real easy. Um, so that's a good question on the next topic I'm going into is top quilt or sleeping bag. Well, top quilt is nice, as long as you've got a good enough underquilt to keep you warm on bottom because of the convection that comes up through. You have to stay warm on the bottom. Even in the summertime, I seem to get a little chilled on the bottom, so I'll have my underquilt on a lot of times, even in the early and late summer. But a top quilt, if you get the top quilt that has a sewn in foot box where your feet will fit in it, so you're not losing so your feet don't come out of your quilt when it's cold. Because a lot of times, if I use just a regular top quilt that doesn't have a foot box, when I'm sleeping at night, rustling around, my feet will come out of the end of the quilt and my feet will get cold. So if you buy a quilt or have a quilt, you can fold it in and make your own foot box to where your feet won't come out when you're moving around in your hammock. So it's just what you're willing to pay for, in my opinion. If you want to um, not spend a lot of money on, because sleeping bags are expensive, top quilts are expensive. Um, Good night, Matt. Have a good night. Thank you for coming in, buddy. Tell Kyle we said hi. Sorry, guys. Getting home now. I'll talk to you later, guys. Later. Okay, Minnesota Mike. I appreciate you coming in, buddy. Have a good night. But like Shug said earlier today when I was watching his video, whatever you have will work. You can make it work. You can go to Goodwill or you can go to a thrift store and find good quality wool items and down items, or if you have synthetic comforters, you can at home you can uh, make them into what you need. I mean, you really virtually don't need to buy all the gear until you get the money saved up and you want to upgrade. But my top quilts that I have, you don't even have to sew it really. You could use safety pins or temporary, you know, ways to make foot boxes in it. But I would highly recommend, and especially wintertime, to have a top quilt with a foot box. That's him in the daft hat. Thank you for coming in, brother. I appreciate it. That was a lot of good information that you put up in chat. I hope everybody uh, gained some knowledge out of that. Thank you for that. The link is gone. Let's see if I can get it in there again. Did that work? Yeah, that worked. Okay. I had to get my tablet. That's why I keep looking down. I had to get my tablet so I could see. It's too hard to do the comments and everything on the phone. So, but yeah, um, that's kind of my 2 cents worth. I'm trying to stay basic and for beginners. I'm trying not to really get into the elaborate hammock stuff uh, because when you start out, you're not going to typically have all the money. I mean, you're not going to want to spend $1,000 on all the hammock gear, because if you get down stuff and all of the expensive hammock gear, I mean, you could spend thousands of dollars easily. So I'm thinking beginner to stay under, I don't know, 250, $300 is realistic to get your tarp. Maybe 350 to get everything that you would like to have: your footprint, your tarp, your underquilt, top quilt. But like I'm saying, if you don't have the money to go that route, you don't have to get a top quilt. You can use a 40-degree or 50-degree sleeping bag and add to it. You can add another comforter or quilt or whatever you have, a little blanket on top or inside the sleeping bag to get you more. You can double up under quilts if you have two lighter weight under quilts. There's no reason you can't double them up. Like my underquilt and top quilt combo is made that you can snap the top quilt into the underquilt to get you that extra uh, insulation. So that's kind of my 2 cents on the top quilt or sleeping bag. It really depends on what you have and what you want. If you don't want to zip up and mess with a sleeping bag, get a top quilt. It's easier to get in and out of a top quilt. Um, so if you got the money to buy, or like I said, modify a quilt that you have and make it. Your next thing that I'd like to talk about is your rain tarp or hammock rain fly. Some people call it, whatever you want to call it. You definitely want to cover all the way past the ends of your carabiner or your attachment points. Like I said, mine are the buckle system. The cheaper, what I call box store hammocks or Bass Pro hammocks. The cheaper hammocks have carabiners. Some of them don't even have carabiners. Some of them just have loops. So depends on what hammock you get. But you'll want to go past those points of attachment. And what I like doing, my buckles or the carabiners a lot of times act as rain drips. So if rain comes down your straps, they'll hit the metal and drip down. And if you want to double up, if it's really going to rain, like if I'm expecting a huge amount of, sorry, Randy, it took me a bit to get you in here. But if you're expecting a lot of rain, I like tying drip lines ahead of my buckles to make sure and to ensure that I don't get any water in my hammock. That's real important. You don't want to wake up with a wet hammock. It's a mess.
So I had a question. I was trying to get in here before you got off the subject a while ago. So the cold I can handle a whole lot better than the heat.
Yeah,
So I
me
think I
too.
asked you before about using maybe dry ice packs or something to help you stay cold and cooler in the summer. Does that really work or not really? Is it too much trouble?
Yeah, it'd be too much trouble really in a hammock. The best thing I could say for a hammock is, those towels that you can soak in water and you can put around your neck and stuff like that. I mean,
Yeah.
if you've got a good breeze, um, just that, or even in the summer, you can get by with it. You can wet down your t-shirt, even. I mean, whatever, or strip down to your underwear and sleep in your hammock. I mean, get as cool as. I mean, that's why I always. You don't have to have a tarp over you, but here in
Right.
Missouri, even in the summer, you get heavy dew in the morning, and I don't like waking up covered in heavy dew. So I usually put
Yeah.
my tarp up and have it porch mode all the way across, so I get that wind even in hot time.
Yeah.
So um, that's the problem with summer is you can only get so cool. Winter, you can add layers and get the warmth you need. Summer,
Yeah.
if it's so hot and miserable and muggy and humid where we're at, I mean, there's only so much you can do. That's unfortunate,
Yeah.
but yeah, your tarp is really important. I think it's one of the real important things for keeping you out of. I mean, it shades you, like you're saying in summer, being in the shade. Obviously, good thing about hammocks is it's easier to find a place set up a hammock. But that's not also true too, because the thinner woods, it's harder to find the perfect trees. If you've got more trees, it's easier to find and set up your hammock. That's why I'm working on um, a hammock stand, not like a Tenza hammock stand, but even more basic, easier hammock stand that I can take and if there's not trees, I can use one tree, or don't need any trees. I'll be able to hang my hammock. So um, that's a whole different discussion. Yeah, it does get hot. That's one thing that I don't like camping in super hot weather either, tent or hammock, either wise. I mean, if I'm in a tent, I have a fan, so I do have a fan that I can take and set on that little. I always have a little side table to put like my phone on or my charging station or battery packs. You could put that battery powered fan next to you, but then again, are you going to backpack in? Or are you going to vehicle camp in a campground? Are you going to have the room to bubble hike in? A
Yeah.
fan. Um, they do have fans that clip on your ridge line on your hammock that has a light fan combo in it, so that those are kind of smaller, but are you going to get enough breeze off of it? Um, and if it's that hot, you virtually don't even need an underquilt if it's that hot. If it gets down to 60 at night, 50 or 60, you definitely need underquilt. But if it's 70 or 80 at night, you can get by without an underquilt, especially if it's not super windy.
Is the underquilt to just keep the breezes off of your back and stuff?
Yeah, that keeps the thing with the hammock is you get that breeze underneath of you, and it just sucks that heat out from underneath of you. I don't know if it's really called convection or whatever, but yeah, it has a slight gap in it that traps the air, that it protects you from the coolness, so it doesn't draw that coolness from you. So that's why either a sleeping pad, a roll mat, underquilt, you need something to protect you, from the cool. And
Yeah.
two, you don't want to really going with the tarps. You don't really starting off if you can only afford a cheap blue tarp, heavy plastic tarp, cheap tarp. I mean, that's what you have to buy. I mean, but it's going to be heavy. So depends on when you're starting out hammocking. Are you going to hike in? Or are you going to be where you don't really matter the weight that you're carrying? Uh, the, the tarp I've got with the one wind is pretty lightweight. So it's not ultra light, but it's light enough that I can backpack in quite a ways. And my pack's not super heavy with the equipment I need for summer. Of course, when winter comes along, you got your top quilt, your under quilt, you've got your sleeping bag or your top quilt or wool blanket, or you've got so much more gear in the wintertime, so your pack's going to be significantly heavier in the winter. Um, but really, that's all I really got with the tarp. I mean, obviously, the tarp's for shade, protect you from the weather. Um, so that's. I can't get the chat to come up. Here it goes. Okay. Click the three dots besides the pin so you can stay on top of the chat. Yep.
Be sure and give a thumbs up, everybody, if you hadn't, please.
Yeah, it's been really hard for me to keep up with the chat too. It's 1 a.m. in the UK. Thank you for all putting up with me. Yep. Thank you for coming in. Appreciate you coming. Small USB chargeable fan. Yeah, Herbert. That's kind of what I was saying with Randy here. I mean, it's virtually going to be the same as being in a tent. I mean, other than hanging. I mean, how you stay cool in the summer. I would suggest being close to water so you can swim. That's what I do. I spend a lot of time in the water in the summertime. Yep, those are both good. Good night, everyone. I'm going to sit by the fire with the wifey. All right, two guys. Tell your wife we said hello. Thank you for stopping in. I really appreciate you.
Later, two guys.
Yeah, man, there's just so many things. We already went over the bug net situation. That was the next thing I was going to talk about on the kind of the outline, but depends on where you're at, and if you have bugs, like in Arizona, you don't really need a bug net. Desert regions, you don't necessarily need them.
Oh, you need them here.
Yeah, definitely need them here. The flies bug me. Flies and mosquitoes are the two worst at night.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, I liked mine removable. So in the wintertime, I didn't have to mess with one stuck on my hammock. It's just, but some people like that extra added security. I mean, not like a bug net gives you any security other than bugs, but um, some people like that door on a tent. Some people like that gives them security, feel a sense of security. But I mean, if there's a
Yeah.
wild animal or a person out there with a knife, they're going to be in your tent in a second. So a tent don't protect you from anything really, other than the wind, rain, and bugs. Yeah. So
And
we already went over
snakes.
that. Yeah, snakes for sure. See, tarp stakes and guy lines. That is a good topic. I feel that is important. The tent stakes, definitely you need something that's rigid, lightweight. If I could suggest anything, obviously titanium's expensive. So for a beginner, I would recommend the triangular shaped aluminum stakes are probably the best as far as a cheap tent stake. They don't bend as easy. They're light and easy to use. I would suggest those or some kind of plastic stake that's solid. Guy lines, high visibility guy lines, like the one wind guy lines that come with it. And I'm sorry, I didn't bring my part for my one wind up here. I should have, but they have bright orange guy lines on them, so you can see them and not trip over them. And they're really good quality. Guy lines are important, and you can put the speed tensioners on them if you want. Um, I find putting a trucker's hitch in it and just doing quick, slippery half hitches to just cure them. I mean, it's all these fancy quick tensioners are cool, but they're not necessary. I mean, even if you don't know how to tie knots, very, very basic knots, you can secure your tarp and your hammock. Uh, Same with the tent. I mean, people go so crazy over all these alien tensioners and these plastic new tensioners, and just try a trucker's hitch in it and a slippery half hitch to tie it off, and it's quick and easy deployment and to take down. So I think people go too, too much into guy lines and knots and all this. You'd need 5 basic knots is all you really need. Um, I know we could go into a lot more. There's so much to tent and hammock camping, but I've just really wanted to keep this real basic because, so many people want to start out, and I'm just trying to hit the points of the basic gear you need to start hammock camping comfortably. And we're almost there. Um, let's see here. The next topic is carabiners or rope. Well, most hammocks, cheaper hammocks come with, like I said earlier, carabiners. A lot of them have just rope, and I hate the rope. Uh, it's so hard to adjust it. Um, yeah, I would definitely add some kind of buckling system to my hammock, whether it's buckles or um, carabiners for sure. Um, but you can't just put cheap carabiners you get at Walmart that aren't climbing rated. You want weight rated carabiners that will hold your weight, and you got to make sure the weight rating's efficient for your weight. I mean, some carabiners, oh, they're good for 100 pounds. No, you want climbing ones that are good for 300 plus pounds. I would say 500 plus pounds if it was me. um, you want aluminum or titanium, obviously, for the weight, but depends on, like I said, if you're gonna hike in or if you're gonna camp in a campground or not have to be far from your vehicle, so you don't have to hike all that heavy gear in. Um, we already went over the tree straps, storage bags. That's a good thing because most everything with one win comes with good storage bags and stuff sacks. I do like adding to my set. Um, I do like dry bags only for like we had a heavy downpour at camp, and only thing that I had to worry about putting up that was wet was my tarp. And instead of putting it in the stuff sack that my tarp comes in, I just throw it in this dry sack so it doesn't get your bag all wet, and you don't have to deal with it. And then you can just take it out at home and hang it up like I did to dry. So that's a really good tip that I didn't really pay attention to when I started out. Is oh man, now I got to put a wet tarp up in my bag. I would usually just strap it to the outside of my bag. But um, something I didn't think about when I started. I said, "Oh man, I wish I would have paid attention to videos or people's recommendations on that."
Got a question.
Yep.
This may be a dumb one, but if you got a dog for sidekick, is there usually room for a dog to sleep with you, or does it just depend on
That
size?
that's a really good question, and that's where the size of the hammock really comes in play. Because I believe my 12-foot hammock is also, I want to say 60 or 60 plus inches wide. So it's an extra wide hammock. So what's is good about that is, yeah, I would have plenty of room for a medium. Even a large dog would fit with you. Depends on if you like something up against you. That's the thing. You're not going to have the room you would in a tent for it to lay away from you. If you don't like your animal touching you, obviously you wouldn't want it in the hammock with you. Like
Right.
Carlisle 195 in UK that I watch a lot. He's got a dog named Tyson that it's a big dog. It's almost the size of a pit bull. I forget the breed of it, but um, he sleeps with his dog and does just fine. But like I said, if you don't like something laying against you, a hammock's not going to be good. They do have one when has a storage hammock, or that's a hammock that you can lounge in, but I would suggest this getting a separate, putting the dog in a blanket or something on the ground sheet below your hammock and
Hmm.
have them sleep. But if you're afraid of it running off, obviously you'd want it sleeping with you. So, I mean, that's something you'd have to consider too, or tie it up. Some people tie it up so they don't go chasing wildlife in the middle of the night because they can jump out of your hammock. So, a lot of YouTubers I watch secure their animals at least by uh, a lead at night, so when they fall asleep, they don't chase after coyote or rabbit or whatever. So, um, yeah, a lot of people, like I said, make a bed underneath their hammock on that ground sheet, or they get another hammock, a smaller, this cheap hammock, and make a hammock for their dog. I've seen them do that too as well. You can hang it underneath your hammock. If you hang yours higher, you can hang theirs close to the ground. So that also works. Yeah, that's a really good question, actually, because that's one reason I know a lot of hammockers don't bring dogs when they are going hammock camping because of that thing. They don't want their dog in their hammock with them. But, if your dog's used to their own bed, anyways, you can just make them a bed. Let's see here. Yep. Let's see here. How we're going up on 1 hour, 12 minutes, huh? Let's see here. Too, that's a big thing that I was talking to you about, I like it. It's kind of cool for your videos that when you get a new item, like you said, you like bringing it out and showing, being first with you and your viewers too. I like that
Mhm.
end,
Yeah.
but you know me, I like trying things out beforehand, and that's one thing it says most time they recommend that you set up everything at home and you try everything out to make sure everything works properly at home. I would agree with that, but on your end, with being a YouTuber, I mean, I'm going towards the end of people that aren't doing videos to show people putting it together for the first time or whatever. If you're just going out and you're not a YouTuber, with a tent, with a hammock, with any camping gear, um, make sure you're trying it out in your backyard before you take it out. I mean, it could be life or death. I mean, there's so many people's died here lately because they thought their gear was warm enough and they froze to death, you
Mm.
know, or they thought it was strong enough. They bought a cheap, you know, nothing against Timu or cheap Chinese gear, but if it's not secure enough and you hang it over a cliff to think get a cool YouTube video and it's not strong enough to hold you, you're gonna, it's gonna break and you're gonna die. I mean, that's just that. I mean,
Or
that's
put a safety rope on, attach it to the tree.
exactly. I mean, which added safety features isn't a bad idea. I mean, it may sound silly, but I mean, if you wanted to go extreme, I mean, I hope a beginner hammock camper or tent camper isn't going to some kind of extremes. I mean, you want to have common sense. Um, pick the right campsite, the area. It's going to be different from hammock camping as it is tent camping. Obviously, tent camping, you need it as level as possible. Hammock, even if the trees are different heights, you can string it to where it's level. And, that's something um, people don't consider ahead of time. They just pick on GPS, I'm on a camp here. Well, if you don't haven't went there, and that's another thing, it's on the next topic is scouting out where you're going to go before you actually go there. And
Mm.
I'm kind of guilty sometimes of not doing that. I'm a creature of habit. That's why I like going out to Mark Twain where I know the area pretty good now. And if I go somewhere else, if you're going somewhere out of state, it's kind of hard to do that ahead of time. But you don't want to go out somewhere where you can't camp safely. I mean, I guess that falls in the common sense part as well.
One of the biggest things that attracted me to hammock camping, which I don't, at this point, I don't like it. I want to like it though. And
Yeah.
one of the reasons I want to like it is for that right there is because in the Ozarks, it's almost impossible to find a good level spot to put a tent.
Yep.
And unless it's a man-made spot, but if you're just hiking out on a trail, more times than not, it's really hard. Even if it's flat ground, you still have a bunch of weeds there or a bunch of rocks or something. There's always something. That's the
Yep.
biggest thing I hate about using a tent in the Ozark.
Yeah, and that's kind of goes in with that is even hanging my tarp on my hammock. That's really virtually the hardest thing that I got to you got to deal with a hammock is driving your stakes down. I mean, with the tent too, um, you got to be able to have something with you. There's always rocks, like you say in Missouri. So I use rocks a lot of time. I don't carry a hammer with me when I'm backpacking or something to drive stakes in. I rely on finding rocks. But I mean, virtually, I mean, people argue with you if you're light, uh, ultralight backpacker, obviously your gear is going to be lighter than hammock could ever be. You can get ultralight hammocks. That's not necessarily true. I would say my summer setup is a lightweight. It's not ultra lightweight. I'd say light to medium, I guess, but you can get hammock gear that's ultra lightweight. It's super expensive, just like tent gear. But I mean, if you're going to hike in 30 miles, you might want lightweight gear or ultralight.
Yeah.
But if you're only hiking 5 to 10 miles, light to medium gear is, in my opinion, fine. Um, it's what you're capable of carrying. And that's another thing of trying out things before you go out on a trip. Say you're going to go to the PCT trail and do a 30-mile hike. Well, you're not going to take a 50-pound pack and never went backpacking in your life. You're going to die. You know, you've got to put that bag on and hike around your neighborhood or go on a local trail close to your home and work with that gear to see if you're capable of carrying it. I mean, it's basic. That's why I wanted to do this basic chat. I mean, Luke, Outdoor Gear Review, has done so many news coverage on these hikers and backpackers dying because of, ignorant choices. Buying 100-pound, these man and wife had 100 pounds each they were carrying and never packed ever. And they had to get rescued because they had such heavy gear. I mean, it's just ridiculous. Um, yeah, it's just crazy. There's so much, but there's really not. There is more to learn, I think, about tent camping, like you say, and like Minnesota Mike said earlier. Some people just want to go and be able to throw up a tent and not have to worry about nothing and sleep in it. And like
Yeah.
you said, here in the Ozarks, especially, it's sometimes super hard to find flat ground, and you're not going to be comfortable laying. You're going to be scooting up. If you're downhill, um, a hammock, it is a lot easier if you've got the trees, obviously, or if you've got the system to set it up without trees. If you're going to be semi, like where we camp in Mark Twain, where it's not
Yeah.
a campground necessarily, but you're close enough to your vehicle that you can have a system to hang your. I've got a system that I'm coming up with that I can put in my receiver, not like the hammock stands that you see from the companies that are out there right now that you hang your hammock totally off. I've got it making something that I can use one tree and use uh, the receiver on my truck. I'm kind of coming up with something totally different than everybody else is making right now. So I want to hopefully make a video on that soon. Um, I'll be able to do no trees or one tree, or I could hang it totally on the truck alone with another pole. That I got to get it and finish it and try it out and see how it works. So I'm pretty confident that it's going to work. But that's definitely nothing for a beginner wants to worry about for sure. Let's see here.
How
Did I miss any good comments? Go ahead.
how many people's in the room? I can't see.
Yeah, 8, it looks like. I had to
Oh, that's
bring my
good.
tablet out. That's why I was fumbling around real bad earlier with comments, and I felt bad about not getting to them all. But as well as I do with the phone, you can't keep up with the comments. I had to get my tablet situated where I could read
Yeah.
comments. And by the time
Well,
I got to that point, a lot of people was leaving.
I'll be back in just a second.
Okay. Hey Herbert, yeah, net gator. That is another good idea. You could wet down and put on and keep cool too. Yeah, that is a good idea. I missed that comment. Hammock sleeve. Yeah, Herbert. That's another good topic. Not necessarily for, I guess, basic or beginner hammocker, I would say, but that's one thing I do like about. I know you're probably talking about the snakeskin sleeves for the tarps and the hammock. That's one thing I do like about the One Wind. It does come with your stuff sack, and you can deploy your hammock really fast from. It's virtually a sleeve. It's not a snakeskin, what they call it, that slides over your hammock and your tarp, and virtually makes an instant uh, deployment. Which technically, I guess the tarp I have and the stuff sack that it comes with is kind of like the one for the hammock, that it is quick deployment. So yeah, if that's something you want, it does make it a little bulkier in your pack to put it in a sleeve. I'm toying with whether I want to go. I do like the system that One's got with the stuff sacks that make it quick deployment. I do like the snakeskin thought, but it does make it bulkier. So if room in your pack is an issue, that's a consideration to think about too. Uh, if you've got the room and you like that idea, I know Tony from Random Adventures, he has snake skin over his whole system, but it's really bulky. So, like I said, if you got the room, go for it. That is a really good question. And Adam said 12 KN carabiner. Yeah, I mean, you definitely want something that's for climbing rated. I mean, I wouldn't get anything cheap at all. Wouldn't get anything from China that doesn't have a rating on it. Anything that's good for repelling would be good enough for to hang your hammock off of for sure. Um, all hammock manufacturers are supposed to have their weight ratings on what their equipment is capable of holding, but I would go way under that rating. I wouldn't be maxing out that rating. Like most of the hammocks that I have are 2 to 300. I think the one win, if I'm not mistaken, is good for 500. Maybe I can't remember 4 or 500. Um, but you always want to check your ratings. Ratings on that stuff are more regulated than like the ratings for like the R value on air mats and stuff because those aren't accurate. Like sleeping bag ratings, those aren't accurate. They got a comfort rating and a survival rating. Yeah, you may be able to survive at 0 degree mummy bag, but you're going to be comfortable at 20 degrees or 10 degrees, whatever it is. So, um, are you going to be comfortable at 0 degrees? No, you might survive, but you're going to be cold.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of good questions. I mean, that's most of the outline that I had for beginners. I mean, there's so much more we can go into, and we can go into whatever, if anybody else wants to go deeper into hammock camping. I wanted the first part of it to definitely be entry level, and I think we went pretty well over the basic essentials to get you started in hammock camping. Um, and since you're back, Randy, I really, like you say, maybe this next trip, that we talked about going on and doing, um,
Mhm.
maybe after that we can do something as far as hammocking. I need to figure out. I wish I knew if somebody had some of those hammocks that we were talking about earlier, the Hammock and the Haven, and something that you could try out. That reason why I mentioned that night cat, because it has if you watch that video of the outdoor McGee, it straps to the trees and keeps it from swaying from side to side like you want. And I
Yeah.
thought, man, that might work for Randy. So
It
tell him to send
looked
it to you.
it looked pretty comfortable.
Yeah. Um, say you need to borrow it for a review.
Yeah.
Be expensive to ship that, wouldn't
Yeah, it would.
it?
But it did look
Yeah,
comfortable.
yeah, very.
But I would
Um,
like to, that place where me and you camped with all the pine trees
yeah.
and we camped just a little ways from the trucks.
Mhm.
I'd like to go back there and, like you said, camp out a mile. Or another thing I'd like to do, I think it'd be really fun to go on a kayaking trip, 2 or 3 nights, kayak a little bit and fish and then get on the bank and camp out and hang some hammocks,
Yeah,
stuff like
yeah,
that.
and we could spend a lot of extra time playing with them and getting it to where you feel comfortable, where you can roll around, and I mean,
Yeah.
uh, I mean, and like that Kura hammock, like you said, it was hard to roll and stuff. The key to that hammock is since it does move side to side like a typical hammock, your center of staying in the center of that hammock is key on that. So when you roll, you have to roll consciously thinking about keeping in the center of that hammock. That's the downfall of that flat lay hammock. But you can make it work. I mean, and the more you lay in one, the more comfortable you're going to get too.
Well, that one I borrowed of yours, I think it could be staked from the corners.
Yeah, you could. Uh, like I said, you'd have to put some what are those tensioners? Tony Random Adventures has some of those tensioners you can get at any like Bass Pro or anything. I can't remember what they're called. Maybe I'll think about it for a while. But when you attach it to the sides, like I said on our camp last, once you get in the hammock and it sags, you can tighten those up, because if you tighten them you're not in the hammock, obviously when you get in the hammock, it's going to loosen them up. So you'd have to be able to tighten them back up. So, but you
Well,
can do that. Adam says 12 kn is equal to 2,697 pounds. Yeah, I think that would cover it. Yeah, for hikers, hammock set up quick for a nice midday nap. Yep. And that's one thing I like doing too. If you have room, excuse me, if you have room to bring you a little small lounging hammock, but it's not really necessary, because, like I told you, I like setting my hammock up where height is about like sitting in a chair. When I sit in it, my knees are straight out, and I can, when I'm hiking, backpacking in, I virtually don't even need to take a camp chair, because I can sit in my hammock and eat my meal. I can use that little table beside my hammock to cook on and do everything. Well, like Tony from Random Adventures do, if you watch his channel, he does that a lot. He cooks right out of his hammock.
yeah. Hey man, I'm fixing to have to get off of here. Got some stuff I gotta do.
I understand. I really appreciate you stopping by, man. You had a
Yeah.
lot of good questions and helped out the flow of the channel. I appreciate you and Minnesota Mike coming in.
Oh, you brought me a long way, because I wasn't even considering hammocking for
Yeah.
the years and years and years and years. I've tried too
Yeah.
many times, and I was ready to give up. But
Well, we'll
I kind
get
of
you.
want
I
to
mean,
try.
I don't expect you to be 100% satisfied with it ever with any hammock, because like what you discussed earlier, but if we can get you to where you can put up with it for a night, or two
Yeah,
nights or whatever we're
at least
out,
decent.
we can, I feel confident we can work and get you something figured out, adjusted. We can take one out and play with it for a day and get it where you can be comfortable.
Yeah. All right, man.
All
Well, I
right.
appreciate it.
Good night, brother. I appreciate you.
Good night. See y'all later. Bye bye.
Yep. Bye. Awesome. That was a lot of good information. Appreciate all the questions you've had too, Herbert, tonight. That's good. Everybody had a lot of good comments and questions. I know I missed some good ones, and I'm trying to go back and see what I missed that was real important. I hope I got majority of the good ones. I'm pretty sure I did. Let's see here. Paul Camps 2. I'm trying to think if I've ever watched him before it's too late. Let's see here. Paul Camps 2. And that sounds familiar, but I can't say that I have. Is he a hammocker too? I guess I could bring him. Well, I can't see chat if I was going to bring his channel up here so I could see. I might have seen some of his. I know I'm not subscribed to him. I'll have to check that channel out. Does he hammock camp as well? I'm not sure. He's a little different. Yeah, a lot of people say that about me too. uh, yeah, I'll have to check it out and see. I mean, I always like. I mean, of course, I'm partial to hammock campers only for the reason of like hammock camping the most. I always also like tent camping and car camping and everything too. But my time favorite is hammock because I sleep the best in my hammock. But I mainly like watching those hammock channels because getting ideas and things I didn't think about and finding out the different ways when I started hammock camping, watching Shug, and he has a lot of informational videos. It's helped. Um, if you can get past his weirdness, it's a good weirdness. I really like Shug and how he goes into detail on trying to help people figure out the hammock struggle, and that's what he calls it. And he says the same thing. It's different for every person. So don't feel bad. It's going to be a thing. You don't want to buy you don't want to go buy a $400 hammock for your first hammock and hate it. So you want to buy lower end hammocks to start out with to find out what's going to work for you. He camps year round in New England somewhere. Yeah, I like camping year round too, especially in the off seasons and winter, because mainly you're by yourself, and even if you want to go to a campground, nobody's usually there. You've got the solitude and you got the place to yourself. That's mainly, and that's something I think that we I could have touched on a little more too, is finding out where you want to go. When you first get into hammock camping, I don't suggest going out to Mark Twain like I do and hike in for a mile or 2 or 5 miles, where however far you're going in, you wanna stay closer to your vehicle, so if you do have a equipment malfunction or something doesn't go right that you expect, that you can leave. There's no shame in, ditching. If it doesn't work and it's a safety issue, that's why it's so important to try things in your backyard or in a park or somewhere close. Try it out. Make sure your equipment's going to work for the conditions that you're in. Make sure you check the weather. Check the weather once you get out if you have cell service to make sure there's no storms, pop-up storms, which you can't predict a pop-up storm in the summer or the fall. I mean, it can just happen here. You know how it is. Or there's purple rain, yeah. You've gotta look out for purple rain. You don't know when it's gonna hit. It could happen at any moment, 2 AM even. Geez, how would a guy know when that's gonna happen? Uh, and that's another thing we could touch on is safety too. Everybody, my brother included, how can you hike in so far and be so remote by yourself? And what about safety? Are you scared about animals? And I'm more concerned about people. That's why I like going out in the middle of nowhere. Of course, safety is always paramount. You need to be safe. Obviously, if you're camping, you're going to have some kind of a knife you could use as self defense. And if you're not a pew pew person, if you don't want to carry to protect yourself, at the bare minimum, have bear spray, pepper spray, something to protect yourself from animals or humans. Um, they have a lot of self defense items that are legal in all 50 states that resemble a pew pew that shoots rubber uh, ammunition, and that would be a great option. It's a non lethal weapon. A lot of people don't you know want a weapon that would kill somebody. So I mean, there's all those options, but it's important even for basic beginning hammock or camper or hiker or any outdoors person. You want to be able to protect yourself against animals or people, and it depends on your area that you're in. Here, the worst thing that we have south is black bears, but we don't have grizzlies here. We do have mountain lions in mountainous areas. You know, bobcats, coyotes. You know, pepper bog, and yes, that's a good Adam. That is a good one. Yep, that is a. I didn't think of that one. Yep, kind of the same thing. Yeah, those work really well and are good options. Or taser. I mean, anything to protect yourself. Depends on if you want to have to get close to whatever the you know animal or person is. I mean, I'd always suggest somebody to protect themselves, regardless if you're worried about people or animals. Most people are worried about the animals, but even bears and stuff. If you're smart with your food, if you're smart, you're prepared and you're, vigilant and you watch and just pay attention. Uh, Most of the time, you're going to be safe. Um, don't set up another good. I believe that I hear people saying, and people don't say it enough. Don't set up on game trails. Don't set up on if you see scat of any kind. Obviously, bear scat. Well, and if it's fresh, you don't want to be setting up in that area. Hike to a different area where you don't or in those areas. Hike somewhere. I mean, if you see claw marks on trees from bears, obviously you don't want to set up in that area. I mean, they're marking their territory. I mean, you've got to be smart. Um, and I don't think enough people. Um, this one kid, I don't remember where he's from, but he went out to hike the PCT and never hiked before in his entire life, and didn't test out his gear and da da da. And he ended up dying out in the wilderness. I think he ended up freezing to death. But there's so many variables, so many things to even as a beginner. That's why I suggest beginner of any type, hiker, camper, whatever. Don't go out in the middle of the wilderness on your first outing, not by yourself, especially. I mean, you know, try it out, go somewhere that's not so remote. Go to a lot of these national forests have logging roads that have primitive campsites um, that you can have your vehicle close by in case something doesn't work out. I mean, do not go in a mountainous, area that, especially if you're not a experienced hiker, or backpacker, or camper. I mean, just know your gear, know where you're going. Uh, if you can go out and scope out the area that you're going to camp before you camp, do it. I mean, be as prepared as you can. Look at the very least, look at the land train maps on Google Earth and stuff, and see how much elevation gain and descent that you're going to have in the area you're at, and at least educate yourself as much as possible. That's right, before it's too late. Yeah, training is key. I mean, um, on anything in life, cooking, anything, any job. I mean, you've got to train yourself, and you got to keep doing it. Just like bushcraft, you got to keep doing it to hone your skill. You got to keep doing it. Like I say, I'm not super bushcrafty. I love bushcraft, and I like to do it, but it's the 21st century. Is it necessary? I mean, if I can carry a big lighter, I'm going to carry a big lighter. A lot of times, if you're cold, you want to fire as quickly as possible. I'm not going to rely on flint or steel, or I'm not going to rely on even a ferro rod for that matter if I don't have something quick to go with the ferro rod or the flint and steel to get a fire. If you fall in the water and you're pre hypothermic, you're not going to want to mess with a bow drill to try to get a fire going. If your big lighter falls in the water, you can blow it off and it will light. I mean, it's the 21st century. It's good to know if the grid goes down and you don't have a lighter. It's good to know, obviously, how to start fires without a lighter, without a match. Like you say, training is key, but I'm not going to rely on those primitive ways of fire starting to save my life. Is what I'm saying. That's part of being prepared. Have all those things. Have your big lighter there as your emergency if you're not going to. If you prefer those primitive methods, obviously keep doing that to hone your skills and make sure that you're proficient in them. Have that big lighter for that emergency situation that you find yourself into, even if you get in a rainstorm and you don't have a rain suit. It doesn't have to be freezing temperatures to get hypothermia. I mean, it can be in the 50s, and if it's a rainstorm and you don't have warm gear or way to stay warm, you're going to need a fire to get dried out and to dry your clothes and your socks and your shoes off. I mean, people don't think of those things. Uh, and I believe that is basic training that you need for even beginning campers. People think that's advanced. No, that's not. People nowadays are unprepared. You know, you got to think of situations that you could find yourself into. Well, I'm not going to be around water. Well, what if there's a water source that's not even on the map? If it's a rainy season and there's water where there's normally not in dry season, you could get wet somehow. You could fall. You could. I mean, there's just so many scenarios. Even sweating in the wintertime, people don't think of. Um, you get hypothermia for sweating too much, having a heavy packing, and there's so much to think about. And there's been so many good comments in here tonight. I really appreciate every one of you being in here and giving all these good recommendations and gears and a lot of if people didn't see all the comments, I'd highly suggest you go back and even look at all these good comments from Hammock Mountain and Ken and everybody, Herbert, Adam, and Mike, obviously, and Randy. I mean, everybody's had super good input, and you know, I understand getting into the more uh, detailed parts of hammock camping, but like I said, I wanted to keep it mostly for beginners uh, because I see in the news mostly um, that's who gets in trouble is the inexperienced campers and hikers that find themselves unprepared and not having the right gear. Um, you don't want to go out in the dead of winter to be your first camp, obviously, camping or hammock camping. I mean, you don't know if there's going to be dry wood out there to start a fire, and you're not going to have the ability or the knowledge to start fires in a wet environment. Most beginners won't. Um, and even if you're wanting to get in the outdoors, it wouldn't hurt to take basic navigation classes and first aid classes and survival classes. At least the basics. It wouldn't hurt to know how to start a fire. Without a Bic lighter. All that stuff's nice, but when everything's super damp, are you going to be able to get those things started? Especially if you're a beginner and you've never done any outdoor activities. I mean, I hope most people will go to a campground. I hope most people, when they first start out, that they'll take their hammock and go to a campground and try it out or state park or somewhere and not hike in the middle of nowhere and be disappointed, not be able to sleep. And that's why it's not like a tent. You just lay it out, throw out your mat and your sleeping pad and your sleeping bag and go to bed. You've got to figure it out and fiddle with it to get it to work. That's actually a great idea, Herbert. Almost as if they need to have a camper's safety class like a hunter's safety class. Yes, I'd almost agree with that just because of what Daniel TD Knife said. They're doing out Superstition Mountains out in Arizona now. They're charging you to go out there because they've had to do so many rescues out there and everything for people being unprepared and being ignorant. I mean, people don't like to be called ignorant, but that just means that you're unprepared. I mean, I think that is a great idea. I mean, Or if you go out unprepared and do something stupid like that, I think they should be able to fine you. Accidents happen. You could be hiking and you could fall and break your leg. Uh, Anything can happen. Accidents happen. But I mean, if you go out unprepared and they can prove that you're unprepared, I mean, people are wearing Crocs going out and mountain climbing. That's idiotic. If you're going to be unprepared, I think they should double fine you for it. They're afraid that, well, if they do that, less people are going to go and experience the outdoors. Well, there's a fine line there. I mean, yeah, the national forests and state parks and all that need to encourage people to get out, but they need to encourage people to be more prepared. They need to put on classes. Um, I know there's classes all around, and people are willing to help out and train people, especially the new next generation kids growing up nowadays. Like when we was at camp this weekend, Kyle, we really was looking forward to Kyle being there, and I understand him not wanting to be there for the reasons he didn't. But his dad wants him to be prepared, for when he wants to go out and start doing these things. His dad wants to train him up right, and that's really good. But people nowadays really don't have the desire. It's hard to say, but I think that is a good idea, Herbert, for sure. I wish they would put something in that if you're going to be an outdoorsman, hunter, fisherman, camper, hiker. I think you should have to take a basic class. Basic, that most everybody can pass. I mean, nothing major, but just can you use a compass? Can you use, not get into ranger beads and everything pacing or whatever people call pacing beads or ranger beads. You don't need advanced land navigation, but basic first aid and basic fire starting and basic shelter building. I mean, it would save lives. Exactly, Herbert. But I mean, that's the biggest negative thing I've heard uh, with Luke on Total Outdoor Gear Review was talking about the same thing, and he said, that's why a lot of these state and federal authorities don't want to implement these fines or these things because they feel that uh, national parks and everywhere that will get less business because if you put stipulations, oh, well, I might get fined if I go out hiking. Well, no, if you go out hiking and not be prepared is what that's stating, not you can't go out and hike. But if you're going to go out and have an accident, that's one thing. If you fall and break your leg or whatever, not doing something stupid and fall and break your leg, but if accidents happen. So, yeah, Garmin InReach, satellite texting, that's definitely something I think even a beginner should definitely have. Um, I know the Google Pixel phones. I don't remember if Apple has the capability now. I believe it does. Some of the iPhones have emergency satellite messaging that you can do without cell service. But yeah, Garmin is definitely, I would say, for all levels of people being in the outdoors is definitely a good idea, especially if you're going what I call off grid, off trail, deep hiking. If you're going to be around civilization, close by, then it's probably not as imperative that you get that equipment because people do think they're expensive, which they are, but they definitely would save your life. Currently on T-Mobile iPhones, yeah, that's what I thought I heard they said. Emergency satellite for live stream is no cell zone. Yeah, I mean, there's so many things that you could go over and cover, and I don't know for a basic, you know, well, this ain't really instructional video. I mean, I don't even claim to be professional, but I do have enough knowledge and enough training and enough years of my life. I've been through several classes, land navigation classes, and water purification, and fire starting, and shelter building, and a lot of CPR training. So I feel very confident in hiking and camping and being smart in the woods. But by no means am I a professional. I don't claim to be. I'm not. I don't have a million certifications, but nobody has to. Um, you just need to, even if you self train through YouTube videos, even and practice these things and uh, be smart. I think you'll be successful and enjoy the outdoors. Hopefully, you'll never have to use any of the emergency survival situation realistically. And my entire life, have I had to use much of them? Very, very, very few. I mean, minor first aid things and splints for twisting my ankle on different stuff. But I mean, luckily, thank God, I haven't had to use them. But there's always a chance when you're in the outdoors, something could happen. So be over prepared for sure. Anybody else have any other questions or anything else they want to add? I mean, like I said, we went through the basic, but um, I'm glad we're kind of ending towards the safety part of it because I mean, I considered it, but some people don't consider like Garmin and all that and the safety aspects of it as important or a beginner. But I think it's more important than everything is your health and safety and making sure you get back home to your loved one, your spouse, or your significant other, your children. Um, it's like a father and son almost died here recently out camping because they were unprepared and father and son together. So um, I would hope parents don't take their kids out and at least the parents aren't prepared. And I know they do. That if this video here, if somebody stumbles across it that's thinking about hammock camping or even tent camping, all this goes hand in hand. I just hope this will help at least one person, um, because there's so many people that are unprepared to just think, "Oh, I got this. I watched one YouTube video on it, but I've never done any hands-on, so I can do it." Well, how do you know you can do it if you haven't physically tried to do it? I mean, for me, learning a new skill or a new job, you can make me watch videos all day long, training videos all day long. I can watch YouTube videos all day long until I actually get my hands on it. I'm a hands-on person. You can tell me all day long, but until I actually do it and know I can do it, the videos mean nothing to me. But I can read books all day long. It helps to have that knowledge and idea before you start, but until you physically do it, I mean, you don't know that you can do it. Yeah, the father and son definitely found that backpack, and it was ironic that that other hiker that was unprepared as well that got rescued and lost that backpack, and it was only God. They're like, "Oh, it was luck. It was luck." No, it was God that had that backpack there to save that father and son for sure. Yeah, bow drill is definitely if you don't have the bow itself isn't the most important part of that kit, in my opinion. I'm not a professional bow drill maker. I've done several as a younger man. Haven't honed my skills, but I feel confident enough. If I was in a survival situation, I'm sure I could do it. I need to do it more, than I do now. But your your spindle, your hearth board, your board is I would say is just as important as your spindle. Your bow, I think, is the least important. I mean, obviously, you want a bow and a string or rope or paracord that ain't going to break and be strong. But I mean, you got to clean off once you burn in your spindle. You got to clean off the char that's on the end of your spindle after you burn it in. I mean, there's in the notch. Uh, there's so many, and the type of wood you use. Um, there's so many variables on bow drill that, yeah, I mean, unless you do that, that's one of the most primitive means of fire that I think needs the most practice to stay proficient at it. Are you ever going to need it? Hopefully not. Um, like I said, I would rather have 100 big lighters in my bug out bag than flint and steel, than ferro rod, than a bow drill kit, anything. I'd rather have big lighter. Big lighter's going to work the first time, every time. You can throw it in water for an hour, pull it out and blow it out, and it's going to light. I mean, and most of the time, big lighters float too. So if you capsize in your canoe or kayak, it's going to float. Um, so, I mean, and you can wrap duct tape on it like everybody does. Like I said, I'm not against primitive skills by no means, but don't rely on flint and steel. Don't rely on any primitive means as your primary means of fire lighting. That's my opinion. I know I offend a lot of people, but I don't have time. If you're going to be hypothermic, you don't have time to mess with flint and steel, bow drill, or even a ferro rod to get a fire going. Or if your buddy is fell in the water and you pull him out of an icy pond, are you going to sit there and mess with trying to make sure you got the right uh, bird's nest and tinder to get a fire started? No, you're going to need a big lighter. And if you have paper towels or toilet paper, clothing that you can burn to speed up the process. I mean, everybody's got Vaseline, cotton balls, fire starters. Obviously, a lot of people have accelerants, but I mean, I am not, and that's me. I'm not going to rely on things that a ferro rod's going to be the next most reliable, in my opinion, to rely on fire starting. Magnesium and ferro rod together, something like that. But still isn't going to be my primary, and that's my opinion. I mean, but most out bushcrafters and survivalists will agree with that. I mean, again, like I said, if you don't have a big lighter, you get in a situation that you lose your bug out bag. I get it. There's magnifying glasses. There's a million different ways to save your life. Wow, 100 hours of bow drill, man, that's a lot of hours. But yeah, you got to have the right equipment. And like you say, I mean, if you find yourself in a situation that you're not in the ideal time or ideal equipment. I mean, everybody has shoes or boots that they wear if they find themselves in that situation. You can use their laces to make your bow drill set, and you can use laces for a makeshift tourniquet if you need to, or whatever. I mean, there's lots of uses for. Everybody worries about having a tremendous amount of cordage. Well, if you got shoes on your feet, you've got a basic amount of cordage, and most people wear belts. Um, there's so many things that you wear on your EDC every day. Um, part of my EDC is having a lighter. I have lighters in my truck. I have lighters in my bag, and um, I've got ferro rods and magnesium starters as well. But I have redundancy, and fire starting is a good thing. I mean, carry it all, but make sure you have a lighter. Is what I'm saying. Zippo or a Bic, but I wouldn't even consider a a Zippo, because if you don't have extra fuel, you're only as good as how much fuel you have. I mean, yeah, a big lighter's not refillable either, but a Zippo lighter, if you don't use it or if you accidentally leave it open or whatever, I mean, it dries up faster because it's not sealed. It's the fuel's gonna dry up eventually if you don't use it, because it's not sealed like a big lighter. It's not going to last as long if you don't use it, or if you drop it in the water, you're pretty much done with the big light Zippo lighter. I know everybody's been in here. I hope everybody's giving a thumbs up. But looks like we got 15 thumbs up. But if you haven't, I'd appreciate it if you would. But there is a lot of, I don't consider myself to be a survival instructor. But I do know enough and have enough common sense and feel confident in my abilities. And that's one thing you got to know, what is your abilities. Like you said, Herbert, you have over 100 hours of bow drill and you still can't do it. Well, your ability, that's not your strength in fire starting. Whatever you're the most comfortable, most proficient in an emergency situation to be able to get a fire started the fastest possible way, that needs to be your primary, in my opinion. What's your second fastest? That needs to be your secondary. And then you have to have a third one. I mean, in an emergency situation, you're going to be stressed. You're not going to think straight. Are you going to have time to build a drill set? Are you going to have time to magnesium and ferro rod and make a bird's nest and flint and steel? Are you going to have time to do all that? That should never be your primary. Even if you're proficient in it, I guarantee you I can get a light with a big lighter. I can get a fire started a lot faster than I ever could with flint and steel, no matter how proficient I was. You have time to gather a bird's nest and all that. I mean, yeah, you could use cotton ball and Vaseline with flint and steel. I get it, but it still isn't as fast as a lighter, no matter how proficient I could ever be. And that should be in every situation, first aid, everything. Am I gonna, if there's an emergency situation, I'm hiking with a buddy of mine and he breaks his leg or falls and gets hurt. I need help. That's when that Garmin InReach emergency locator is going to come in handy. I mean, you ain't going to have time to drag him out there and get him to help. You're going to need somebody right away. So, I mean, that's common sense. Yeah, bushcraft, that is definitely goes into that for sure. Like we talked about at camp, I think more campcraft. I know bushcraft was term was made by, can't remember who now. But anyways, I mean, bushcraft is definitely making things from wood, I believe. Fire starting is part of that. I do think, and there's other things that can be integrated in, but yeah. But even if you're a bushcrafter, I think you need to know the basics. I mean, if you're even getting into bushcraft, I mean, and people may think, well, why are you getting into bushcraft and why are you getting in all this safety and fire starting and everything? Well, I mean, if you're going to be in the outdoors, like I stated before, fisherman, hunter, camper, hiker, you need to have means of fire. I mean, if emergency happens, you need a means of stopping bleeding. You fall and break your leg and you're bleeding, you need means of, a belt, a tourniquet, something to stop the bleeding so somebody can find you before you bleed out. I mean, it goes to the basics to me. That's basic. That's what beginners and the guideline that I was going by. I mean, it didn't have anything about first aid. It didn't have anything about fire starting. It didn't have anything about uh, water filtration and hydration. Uh, all that's important for beginners too. I should have thought of touching on that earlier. Do you have enough food? Do you have more than enough food? I'm going out for overnighter. In my opinion, I need a minimum of 3 days of food. 3 to 5 days of food, even if you're going out for an overnighter, even if that's snacks, power bars, um, stuff that's high calorie that will get you by for 3 or 4 days in an emergency. People think, oh, that's all advanced stuff that people need to know. Why? Who gets in trouble more? Inexperienced, untrained people in all aspects of life, in work, and even the military. If you're less trained, where's the most mistakes happen? And an inexperienced private that comes into the military is going to make majority of the time more mistakes than an experienced soldier. I mean, inexperienced people are going to be the ones that's the least prepared. Obviously, the military trains you from basic training to be more prepared than most people, but I'm just saying that's an example. I mean, every aspect of life, if you're not properly trained, you're not properly prepared. And that's why I like about Luke's channel, the Total Outdoor Gear Review, is he says over and over and over again, make sure you're prepared. Make sure you know your gear's capability, your capability. I need to know what I'm capable of doing and what I can't do. Can I take care of a wound? Or am I gonna, if I'm out by myself, if I don't like the sight of blood or whatever, am I gonna be able to take care of my accident, or I'm gonna bleed out because I can't stand to look at my own blood? You know, you need to consider those as well, I feel, because it's important. So thanks, Herbert. Yeah, and that's just something that I've come up with in the last probably 10 or 5 or 10 years is changed my whole thought on it, because I used to be so hard headed on, oh, it's cool to be able to start fire. Yeah, it's super cool to start a fire with flint and steel and ferro rod and bow drill. All that is super, super cool, and magnifying glass and all the other options, 9-volt battery and uh, what am I trying to think? Steel wool. You know, there's lots of ways, but uh, you know, definitely redundancy and fire starting is a good thing. Tourniquet is definitely, yeah, I always have a tourniquet in my kit for sure. I mean, like I said, a belt definitely works good. Not as good as a regular tourniquet, or, you know, an Israeli bandage is good to have, but I mean, in most situations, are you going to really need a Israeli bandage? I mean, if you're in a firefight or you get shot, yeah, ways to cauterize, you know, an open wound, even if it's a cut or you fall and get a big gash, you're going to need to stop bleeding. So tourniquet is, yeah, that's probably one of the most important things, and that goes with the what's most important. A tourniquet's fast and simple, less to think about. I mean, a belt, yeah, you can use it in a pinch, but if you're hurt and you're stressed out and you're in shock, are you going to be able to make do with a belt? You know, maybe not. You're not going to be thinking straight. You're going to be hysterical almost. Some people would. So, uh, two is one and one is none for sure. Yeah. Multiple ways. I mean, everything, having multiple ways to do everything. Definitely another one is water. Uh, Water's definitely in my book the most uh, important thing. Shelter, most people would argue fire or shelter, but water, I mean, you can only live 3 days without water. So, um, you know, you need multiple ways to filter your water. You need plenty of food. You need a way to make shelter. You know. All right, Herbert, I appreciate it. Yeah, we're over the 2 hour mark. I think I'm gonna be cutting it short here too. I didn't realize it was getting quite as late as it is. Yeah, I appreciate you guys coming on. I really do. Your guys' insight on everything and input on everything's been right on and top notch. I really appreciate you guys coming in and giving me the support and love. I will remember this camp out for the rest of my life. Like I said, I really appreciate it and had a good time the weekend, but I totally understand needing to get your rest. I need to go catch up on the rest and spend time with my honey. So appreciate you guys coming in here, even though I had the hiccups on getting it started this evening. I don't understand what went on, but that's what technology does to you sometimes. You got to make do, but I'm fortunate you guys still come in and hung out with me. If nobody else has any more questions or any more input, I think I'm going to call it here and hope every one of you guys have a really good night and good week. Hopefully we don't hear the purple rain tonight. Good night, Herbert. Good night, Adam. Says there's 7 people in. I don't know who I'm missing, but hope everybody has a good night. Appreciate everybody. And if I missed any comments, I'm sorry, but I'm grateful for them. I'm definitely going to watch this again after. And I will see you guys next time. If I don't see you before, I'll see you next Monday on the live. And you guys have a good night. Love you guys. See you later.